to Xavia Fox Talks, and I am your host, Xavia Fox.
You're aware of what it should look like, and it's not that complicated status, right?
What does it's complicated really mean? I don't even understand what that really means.
You know what? I know
drama
some people.
To me. When
it
I
does.
See it, I see
it
drama.
does. I know somebody. It does. A couple people that had that status, and I never really questioned it because I had some insight into what was going on in those relationships. I probably wouldn't have put it as complicated, on my Facebook page because it indicates that you're confused.
Right.
It indicates that you don't know your position or your role within that situation because it can't be a relationship because you didn't say that. You said it's complicated.
Right.
You didn't say, I'm thinking about it, I'm complicated. The categories, it's not even there. But if you guys are in the thinking stage, you need to be able to check. We in the thinking stage. We ain't got that. So all we got right now, right? So you single, right? So you're single. Yes. So your status still says single, even though you are courting or in that transitionary period where you guys are taking those steps. So there's no room for that. So it's complicated wouldn't fit you.
No.
It would fit the confused folk that don't know how to maneuver around somebody that's positioning them to stay back. Okay? Because if it's complicated and the other person is single and y'all together,
right.
Something's not right. Somebody didn't get the memo.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
The memo was missing. Or they didn't read it. And some of y'all ain't reading either. Okay? Between the lines.
Right.
All right? So it's complicated status, I think, is also a big misnomer. Because it can mean anything. It can mean you're open for whomever. You're waiting for Mr. or Mrs. right now. It could mean that, you are dating and trying to figure out, who's the one. All right? And people do that. Guys do it too. They just looking for the opportunity. You put on Facebook, I'm having a bad day. Okay? And that's leading me to my point number 2. You're in denial. You're in denial. It's complicated. You're in denial. That's number 2. People are in denial about what's happening in their relationships. Okay? So if it's that complicated, figure it out.
You know what? I think because we have a caller that wants to share.
Sure.
I believe that he was somewhat in denial.
Okay.
Because he said to me, and he'll probably say when we call him, that they had some little problems, but nothing huge. But then the situation that occurred, somebody posted something on his page, a female posted something on his page that meant something totally different.
Yeah.
But his girl took it to mean something else, and she broke up a 3-year relationship. So how are you walking around thinking that, we got some few little problems?
It's something else in that dynamic. She didn't just walk just off of that. It was something.
Was being a
absolutely. We got people that, stay in relationships because, and I've been guilty of that when I was younger, and didn't know any better, but once I transitioned into womanhood, that was a wrap. You don't stay. And sometimes we revisit old stuff because it's in our DNA. And let me say this because I'm talking about, the fact that we're in denial. A lot of it is from a holistic standpoint. Our DNA is made up of that stuff. Okay? So if mommy and daddy, or grandma and grandpa, for example, because it's generational, a lot of it, and it's unconscious, we attract what's familiar to us, even though it's unconscious. We think he looked different, and sometimes he does, right? He might be intelligent, but most of the time, unless we've dealt with our own stuff and gotten out of that, process of denial about what our relationships really are, we tend to keep attracting the same people.
Now, you know what? I can actually relate to what you just said. I can relate to that statement you just said. I talked to another lady often. She's a life coach. And she says that you attract who you are.
Absolutely.
But the way that you just said it, because I tend to attract or am attracted to the super confident, almost arrogant men.
Well, we like them guys because, they make us feel protected. We like them.
And that's who my daddy was.
So was mine. My father was a protector. My father was charismatic.
I don't think that I am that. I don't think that I am super confident, but I don't think that it bore. Maybe that's just part of my arrogance.
Right, it could be, right?
Maybe I don't think that I'm borderline or arrogance.
Or in women, it might look different. If you were with him, you were made to feel as if it was you and him. There were no other eyes anywhere else. It was you and him, and that's what the draw was. And so when I really had to contend with what was going on with me and in my relationships, I noticed that I attracted charismatic guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So I'm not just talking about people out in Facebook. I am, making reference to myself as well. But once I knew that that's what I was doing, I was, unconsciously making those decisions because it's a part of my DNA. It was inherent that I was going to do that. And some people are going to disagree with that, but that's okay. But if they really are in a state of self-reflection and not denial, because see, when you come out of denial, you got to be able to reflect if you're going to make a change. But if you don't want to think about it, you want to, do some other stuff, and that's where we're going to go with number 3. But if you want to do some other stuff, right, then you're going to repeat that same cycle. It might be painful. It may not be as painful, but it'll still resemble what you had before. And so I think, what we're doing, unfortunately, when we're in denial, we're not being honest with ourselves. We're not being honest with our partners, whether we're married or in a relationship, or even if we're dating. Because here's a good example. A guy, and man, I'm not picking on y'all, but, all right, because I'm a woman, I got to, go there. All right, a guy, you'll say, well, are you seeing anybody? And they'll say no, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a woman may interpret that no to mean no.
No.
Okay, you said no.
Because
we're so literal, right? But we're emotional, but we're literal. If you told me that you were going to take me somewhere today, the expectation was that you were going to be about it.
Right.
And the guy might have said, well, no, what I meant to say was no, but you told me. So we're literal in that sense. Your yes is your yes, your no is your no. This is what it is. But then there are some of us that, have evolved, right? And then we begin to say, well, wait a minute. He said that he wasn't dating anybody. But I didn't ask him if he was married.
Oh, yeah.
All right?
Okay.
I didn't ask him if he was living with someone.
Right?
Because see, now we evolved, because he said no, but we didn't ask the other questions. And those other questions lead you to that point where you are saying, okay, wow. Or his interpretation of seeing somebody is not what we know dating to be today. So he could actually be going out on dates with multiple women, or he might have a friend with benefits,
or he can have a booty call,
or he can have a booty call, all of that, and his answer is still no, I'm not seeing anybody.
But you are regularly having sex
Absolutely.
with at least one and possibly 2.
Right.
Or
but
more.
In his eyes, those aren't significant individuals. Those aren't long-term possibilities for him, and he's just filling it out. And I'm not saying it's wrong to do that, because women do it as well. We date, but guys tend to look at us differently when we're dating. If we go out with this guy or that guy, we have to be sleeping with them. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily the case. That's just the way it's working. It's called courting, if it's done properly anyway. Mm-hmm. But courting should be a one woman, one man situation. Mm-hmm. But you now are in a larger society where you have to explore those other options if this doesn't fit for you. So I think that when we come out of denial and we really look at, what's happening, in terms of how we look at relationships, in terms of what we choose to participate in terms of what we're really calling it. And that's the real status that I'm talking about. So the first one, the misrepresentation of the status, that's that fake stuff. That's that pseudo stuff, But the real status piece is, where are you in terms of self-reflection? Are you in a state of denial about what your relationship really looks like? Are you saying you're happy when you're not? Is there something happening or ongoing in your situation that you're not addressing, or you don't want to address because you are avoiding, which is another coping mechanism. See, I told y'all going to get educated today.
I'm ready.
All right?
That's why I'm on the couch.
Those
usually I be in the chair. I'm on the couch because I need some feeling over here.
Those are the 2 main coping mechanisms that we use, denial and avoidance. The other is rejection. All right, so we're in denial about being rejected. So if I bring this situation up to, my guy, and we're having problems, I don't want him to reject what I'm saying. I want him to acknowledge me. I want him to hear me. And likewise with guys, rather, and I'm not generalizing, but, by the same token, you see more of that than not. Men may not want to have that long-winded conversation that we like, because, we want to analyze when it's a problem. But when everything's good, we just roll with the good. We want to normalize a situation, even though we know tomorrow we're going to be rolling around the street and fighting like cats and dogs, right?
Ooh, Lord.
And so I call them patchwork relationships.
Oh, wow.
they being held. I don't know. My grandmother's from the South. She's from Mississippi, and so in order for them to keep warm, they would make quilts by hand. And so, during her time, my grandmother was 100 when she passed.
Ooh.
Okay, so she was born in 1905. So, we know what the economy looked like during her time. Little swatches of fabric that they made outfits out of, or clothing. They would take those and stuff the quilts with stuffing, and then take whatever fabrics and knit and put them together. The point is, the stitching is all by hand. And over a period of time, they're old. They unravel. That stitching unravels, okay? And so much like relationships, if they're patched together, you know what I'm saying? And I mentioned sticky tape. Or if they are, pieced together, you are going to have to be able to sit down and unravel that stuff, or let it unravel to see what it really is. You may have been with a person for 2 years, and you guys are no more suited to each other than the person down the street, but yet you stayed. And what was that about?
Right.
Some people say, oh, I don't want to be a quitter. And I used to say, I don't want to quit. I don't want to quit on my relationship. I'm going to hang in there. Bye, go, run. Okay? Right? You got to get at it because you're damaging each other emotionally. And so you can't be in this patchwork situation and don't think that one of the pieces not going to fray on the ends. On the ends. And I have a friend, and we all always chuckle about people getting burnt. They need to get singed. A little bit. Sometimes you're pressing your hair or you're curling, and you might have the heat, the curl is too hot, and you smell something and it's your hair. You've been singed. And so in relationships, people are being singed and not saying, hey, it's burning, I smell something, something burning, this, wait a minute, what's that? Something's on fire. It's you, fool.
Right.
It's your relationship.
Right.
You guys are laying next to each other, right?
Yeah.
Eyeballing each other, knowing that the air is real thick,
right,
and not dealing with it. That's not healthy.
Right.
Okay? So, again, the real status, and getting around it, I think is something that I feel like when we're talking about what is Facebook destroying relationships, no. That's still people. All that's people. All that's us. Human behavior. Okay? And so lastly, the third and final point, and I'm sure people are going to have some other points, and our caller will definitely have his own point of view, is that people are using Facebook to self-medicate. And what I mean by self-medicate, and some of us, and I'm sure our YouTube subscribers and our fan page people will definitely be able to relate to that, is that we're people who don't want to feel pain. It's like an open cut or open wound. You can put a Band-Aid on an open wound, but if you don't use antiseptic or alcohol, peroxide, or whatever it is that you need to get the germs and stuff out, it's gonna heal, but it's gonna leave a scar. Okay, and so that self-medication, we're using Facebook as a method of medicine, right? To deal with our boredom, to deal with our loneliness. Okay, to deal with our anger, because you've seen those mad rants and raves out there on Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like every hour on the hour somebody cussing. I mean, they like F you, and I'm like, who are they talking to? And it's nobody in particular. They won't say the person's name.
But it's somebody. But you know what? Another thing that you were talking about, self-medicating, and then the rant and the denial.
Yes.
What gets me, because men, especially on Facebook, but I mean they live in the world. So
I think they're gonna say that we male bash.
Come on. We gotta
put ourselves out there.
Really quick. They are so quick to point out that women are angry and bitter and all of that stuff.
Okay.
And then that same man, you go to his page, and he is dogging women. There are no good women, and why would I just blah blah blah, on and on and on. And if you go to that same man's page and say, you don't even say, you are angry. You say, do you think you may have some anger issues with him?